Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time.
The best there is, best there was, and the best there ever will be. And you know it.
With a tear in my eye.
The cream of the crop. Acknowledge me.
Well, guys, I guess I know why they're not doing the media scrums anymore. Episode 392 of Top Rope Nation, WWE SummerSlam Night 2 just ended moments ago. We're here to talk about it. If you want to vent in our chat room, feel free. I'd love to get you involved in the show. Get your thoughts on the return of Brock Lesnar. Did not see that one coming. I'll give you that.
I wonder why. I wonder why nobody saw that coming.
Brock Lesnar, who is still named in an ongoing lawsuit against WWE and Vince McMahon by Janelle Grant, has been brought back by the WWE to assumingly feud with a babyface John Cena. Perhaps will end up being John Cena's last match. We'll have to see about that. Wow. It's very strange because, Cody Rhodes won the world title tonight, dips out. You think you're getting John Cena celebrating his last SummerSlam send-off, and then Brock's theme comes on. And there was a pop by the crowd instantly because they were shocked. And then they got very quiet, it seemed like to me, and they didn't really know how to respond. It was this weird kind of feeling came across the crowd. Probably many of them thinking the same thing that we're thinking, Justin Joint. And Justin, let me just say first off, I'm so sad you weren't here with us this morning to talk about night 1, which was a supremely better show from the WWE. And night 2, there's going to be a lot of complaints here, I think. How you doing tonight, man?
Been better. I have been fucking better, Brian.
Yeah.
Anybody who listens to the show regularly kind of knows my general feelings on WWE. And I started getting a little nervous, 2.5 matches in where I'm kind of having a good time, and am I having to get on this review show and praise this company? And luckily they spent the rest of the show making sure I would not have to do that.
Yeah. Are you drinking tonight? We haven't done a late night show in a while.
Nope, not drinking at all. Not drinking at all.
A little zombie dust?
Yep, because I filled that inside.
Yeah. Jesse, your instant thoughts. How you doing tonight, man?
Hi, I'm okay. That guy was a NCAA champion my freshman year at the University of Minnesota, and ran to the weight room a couple of times and thought he was a humble dude. And then you look and see what's going on with Janelle Grant case, and I'm pretty silent about it all right now. I'm actually, if you threw that out the window, his return, I actually liked the main event.
I mean, it was definitely better than the WrestleMania outing from those two.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't hold a candle to last night's main event, but it was a much better match than we saw at Mania. I have some squabbles with the finish and the overdone finishers, which we'll get to. I think he could have trimmed off 10 minutes of that match, but hard to feel good about it. The way it went off the air. I just, I don't even know what to say.
I mean, they spent the entire weekend leaning in to what they are and telling you exactly what they are and what they believe in. And, everybody's going to have different opinions on what that is and what that means to them. But speaking for myself, it just makes me feel gross. And I just don't know how much longer I can continue watching this product because I just don't like it.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about in the past, like WWE's business obviously has been doing very good for a couple of years, and they seem to sometimes I ranted a couple of months ago about this on how, it was hard to root for them based on how they were throwing some of the politics in your face, because it's like, oh, the company's hot. We can do whatever we want. We can charge ridiculous tickets and people are going to buy them because we're hot right now. I feel like this stuff's all going to circle around. It's going to bite them eventually, but the ticket prices are still outrageous. Now they're just leaning into the political stuff, which they used to shy away from.
Yeah, that's the weirdest part. As much of a monster as Vince McMahon is he never really showed his cards that much
True.
when it came to those kind of beliefs. But now here we are in the Trips era, and he's going full blown with it.
You know what I thought was going to happen when John was out there at the end, and I thought someone was going to come out. I thought it was going to be Hunter. I thought for sure Hunter's going to walk out there. His theme's going to come on. He's going to big embrace with John and be there for the close. That's what I thought it was going to be. And I'll get you guys' take on this too. But, with Brock being back and whatever they're setting up, they might have him wrestle Cena in Paris. They might wrestle in Australia. They might wrestle in San Diego and at Survivor Series. Who knows? I don't need to see the match. Even if Brock Lesnar wasn't named in this ongoing lawsuit and he was totally clean and hands wiped of that whole situation, I still wouldn't be clamoring for this. I guess if you're a new fan, I've seen it before, like many times. What do I want to see out of this John Cena final run? I want to see him wrestle young talent he's never worked with and put those guys over. I want to see him lose to Gunther in his last match. That's what I want to see. I don't need to see him wrestle Brock Lesnar. Why? There's no draw in that to me whatsoever. Losing one-sided to Gunther, who is going to be in this company's main event scene for the next decade plus, makes a lot more sense than running back something with a guy he's worked with going back almost 25 years. I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me. Maybe I'm the wrong target demo on this.
I think this is going to end with I love Vince McMahon the most on a pole match between Brock Lesnar and John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that they're going to be able to touch the Extreme Rules match that they had. What was that after WrestleMania 28, or the SummerSlam squash, which was just perfect for what they were doing in the moment. And, we just saw, not to make this about AEW or anything like that, but we just saw what happens when two legends, have a rematch years down the road between Kenny Omega and Okada. And it was not what their previous matches were, but I think those guys are so technically sound and so smart in the ring that they made it work. I don't understand how this match works. I mean, and nor do I care because of everything else in the background. That's just going to hurt it even more. But I'm not the target audience anymore, so from what I'm seeing online, there are a lot of people very excited about this.
Oh, wow. Yeah. We got a chat room is somewhat active right now. I'm seeing some names that were just in the Bleacher Report show with me. So thank you guys for migrating over. Brittany's here again.
Welcome
she was
back.
Here this morning. James, I think, was on the Bleacher Report show. Fallout, I believe, also. We got Ryan Huffman here as well. Ryan checking in saying, a year from now will be Lesnar's final match in Minneapolis, hopefully to lose to Gunther. Be fun for Gunther to beat both Goldberg and Lesnar to send them out.
I think Brittany's 100% correct in her comment that she just made too.
Brittany says, maybe Cena wanted Brock back and wanted to feud with him before he retires.
I don't know if he's ever been the type of guy to call his opponents. It seems like he's always been just company man, go with the flow, but that would not surprise me at all if he wants to go out with a quote unquote bang against somebody.
Yeah, Fallout checking in about the politics stuff says, Hunter always been a fan of the president. Regardless, I can't even imagine how the fans there felt. You could tell there was a gasp. I mean, I saw the clips of when they showed the fitness council thing, and there's a lot of boos in the audience. The thing about that though is when Trump was the president the first time and Vince was still around, they went out of their way to never talk about it, because it was he was such a controversial president, and still is, obviously. And Vince has been friends with this guy since the 80s, and he didn't even put it on TV. They never even talked about it. In fact, if you play the WWE 2K video games, they have a thing where you reenact old WrestleManias, and they show footage of some of the old matches. And when they show the footage of Mania 4 and 5, they actually blur out Trump in the front row.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. That could be I don't know, maybe they have to pay Trump if he's not, I don't know, but they do blur him out. And, they never talked about how the president of the United States is in their Hall of Fame and hosted 2 WrestleManias. They just shied away because they knew they were going to piss off half their audience. And now, ever since the TKO thing,
They embrace it.
They embrace it. And look, some of that I can overlook. Look, regardless how you feel about the administration, I'm sure it's an honor for him to go to the White House, fine, whatever. But it's that on top of other stuff that they've been doing that starts to rub some fans the wrong way, I think. And they're getting very cocky with what they're doing. They feel like they can do no wrong. And, usually that kind of thing and that kind of attitude comes back to bite companies, but we'll see what happens.
I think it still can over the next couple of years. And I think if you look at, prime example, it's like WCW 1998 when they were making boatloads of money in spite of the fact that the product was starting to slowly deteriorate. I think that this could happen in like 2027 where all of a sudden fans are just revolting and leaving because of, not necessarily because of what's going on in the ring, but like who they're bringing back. Yeah. Also, Cena's done. I'm assuming Lesnar's going to be done very soon. Goldberg's done. They got how many nostalgic acts do they have left? Are they going to keep pulling the Undertaker out of retirement to chokeslam young talent on NXT, or are they going to actually have him come to the main roster and do it again to Braun Breaker? They pulled that trick off in the middle of a NXT AEW head-to-head. I remember that a couple of years ago when the Undertaker and John Cena showed up, and they somehow just miraculously beat AEW in a ratings showdown because AEW moved to a Tuesday night. Yeah, this is all just, it's mind-boggling to me what they are getting away with. And I alluded to this on Unplugged. You look at X.com and how they're reacting on one side. You go over to BlueSky and you go, holy shit. Like they see clearly what's going on. They're like, how can you continue to support this company when they keep pulling shit like this?
Yeah, it's I don't want to get into like a huge conversation on their business and everything, because obviously the business is on fire for them right now. They just sold over 100,000 tickets for back-to-back nights. I would like, that said, I'm still a wrestling fan. I agree kind of with what Justin's saying about sometimes it's hard to support them based on the outside of the ring stuff, for sure. I felt really good this morning reviewing night one, though. It was such a fun show to watch. And other than the one little video clip they showed, kind of forget about that stuff. And then this show it started out really good, as we're going to talk about. And then as it went on, I had problems with it, just creative problems with it. I just really hated the way it ended. And it just left me feeling pretty bad. Like I don't feel great about the show anymore. And it kind of, I still like night one a lot, but it just kind of ruins the whole thing, and it's just weird. It wasn't that long ago that AEW was selling more tickets in the same market than WWE was. I know the WWE trolls right now like to talk about how, WWE's on fire and AEW struggles sometimes to sell tickets. But like, Justin, we were in Las Vegas 3 years ago for Double or Nothing, where they sold out the T-Mobile Center, and they were running Money in the Bank at Allegiant like a month and a half later or whatever it was. And they had to move the show because they couldn't sell enough tickets. WWE was running a billboard up and down the Las Vegas Strip trying to detract from AEW's show. AEW was a company that had only been around 2.5 years, 3 years, and they were outselling WWE in some markets, which was remarkable. They're obviously not doing that now. But, for the fans that are not liking and feeling great about this stuff, there's another product now. And, this is a real small sample size. I mentioned this on the show before, but I'm seeing more and more like on social media, people saying, oh, I might have to give AEW a try. I don't like this kind of stuff. That stuff can add up over the course of years, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
And it's, a big part of it is to each their own and what you're looking for in a wrestling show. But like, there was a point tonight where one of the matches ended and I was like, all right, I got a couple things I got to do quick. I got to get my laundry switched over. I had to go do something for the kids. And it's like, I want to try and get back so I can pay attention to the show for this podcast. And I made it back with like 10 minutes to spare, just more advertisements and other bullshit filler. I completely moved laundry over, and it just didn't even make a dent in the space in between matches on this show.
Yeah. Well, I think we could talk about the main event here really quickly and then talk about the rest of the show.
The first match?
Yeah. We are going to start with the last match, and then we'll go back to the rest of the show, because I assume most of the people who click on this video, they're going to want to hear about Brock's return in the main event. So I was on the Bleacher Report stream, so I did not take thorough notes on the show. And this morning I did, because I went back and I watched Gunther and Punk a second time so I could take notes on it. And we were really thorough on this morning's show. So if you want to hear us talk about night one, check out the archive for that here on the channel or the podcast feed. But on this one, it's really going to be coming off the top of my head and whatever you guys have. I thought Cody's entrance with the homage to Dusty was super cool. You know how they had the polka dots and Dusty talking on the screen. That was nice. I did notice, like, when Cody came out, he wasn't as handsy with the fans, like giving the high fives like he usually does. So I was starting to wonder if he might turn heel in this match. John obviously got the full-on baby face entrance like he hasn't had in quite some time. He had that turn on SmackDown. And, the match itself, just going off of memory, at times it didn't really feel like a street fight. There were some weapons here and there, but it was mostly like a regular match with a couple of weapons. And then they finally got out there and they started going through the crowd and fighting. They went up by the stage, which that stage was just massive. When you saw the camera angle of it down on the field, you could really tell how big it was. Like when you saw it from the hard cam, it looks pretty big. When you're down there looking up at it, like, holy shit, they have this massive stage built up in there. And they get over by the stage and they go under the stage. And they ended up coming up the elevator that Cody uses for his entrance. And John is like holding Cody in the AA position and smirking at the camera. That was pretty funny. I liked that. That was really cool. But speaking of the AA, John Cena hit 8 AAs in this match. I kept a tally, and one of them was through a table. Right? So, or was it 2 through a table? He did the one through the announce table. Then he did the super one off the top rope.
Yeah.
So it was almost like 8.5 AAs, and that wasn't enough to beat Cody. Cody, who did ultimately win with the Crossroads, hit 6 Crossroads, 14 finishers. For whatever you want to say about New Japan and AEW and overdone finishers, I have never seen an AEW match where someone hit their finish 8 times and it wasn't enough to get the victory. 6 times. I mean, that was way overdone. And then, Cody at one point, he hit 3 rolling Crossroads and couldn't get the win. But what got him with the win was when he was up there on the top rope and John was going to AA him through the table. He did what they called a Cody cutter, but it was really him just like jumping off the ropes and kind of throwing John's head at the table.
Cody just jumped through a table. That's what the move was.
That was the Cody cutter. And then right after that, he hits the Crossroads, just one of them this time. And that was enough to finish off John cleanly. I did not like the finishing sequence at all. Way too many finishers, but definitely a better match than WrestleMania. I will for sure give him that.
Yep.
And entertaining moments throughout. Like I said, like the stage thing was pretty good. There were some cool spots throughout the match that I'm not recalling off the top of my head right now. So I definitely liked it a lot more than WrestleMania, but I think they could have got the 1, 2, 3 a little bit differently, I think.
Yeah. Go ahead, Justin.
This match dragged really bad, and I agree that I think it was significantly better than WrestleMania, and I think a big part of that is because John Cena is at his best when he's playing Super Cena, and we finally got that, the babyface Super Cena. That's what makes him, and they finally got to do that tonight. But the issue was, it was kind of the discombobulation of like everybody maybe expecting, is it going to be a swerve with Cena turning heel again, or is it going to be Cody turning heel? And I think if they had just scrapped that babyface promo from Cena, I wish they would have just, for like a month, layered it on quietly that Cena's like maybe questioning his ways. But for them to have this match, for Cody just to seemingly trust that John Cena is a true blue babyface, considering everything that Cena has done to him, especially at WrestleMania, and he gives him some fucking salute. Why? I mean, he's made his life fucking miserable. He took his world title away, but they just played everything straight. And that's the part I really didn't like about this. It didn't make any sense. They could have done the whole finish. Like that should have been the babyface turn, was them having this epic long match and Cena having the moment where he's going to do something maybe nefarious And he doesn't, which is unfortunately a trope we see way too much nowadays in professional wrestling. I want to hit him, but should I? I don't know. I don't know if I should. That would have actually worked here with this scenario and this storyline they've been telling. He could have not done that. It maybe could have cost him the match. And then he could have had the true turn, the true babyface turn, where he gives the title to Cody, saying, "Hey, you're the man now. You've truly earned this. You've brought the best out of me, and you made me see the errors of my way." They could have done that with just facial expressions, but instead it just all left me kind of cold, even though, again, I didn't hate the match. It was just too long, and it didn't jive with me with the babyface and heel storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Cody leaned into heel a couple of times by taking the bottom of the turnbuckle and just totally tearing apart the ring ropes as a whole, using that as a weapon a few times. I like the beginning when they hugged it out and then they just started throwing fists and Cena grabbing Tyrese Halliburton's crutch and using that. I thought that was kind of a fun spot too. Yeah. So, and Cena, I have been giving him all this shit for moving like 1996 and 1998 Hollywood Hogan. He actually starting to move like 2018 John Cena again. It looked like he actually cared at this point in time. So I'll give him kudos for that. But yeah, like blurring those lines between face and heel, or like just Cena trying to play the face card. There was a definite different way that you could have done it. You didn't have to do the Friday night promo, which was good, but there's something that you could have done through storytelling in this match on Sunday and just made him see his ways as opposed to how you did it on Friday.
Yeah. Some of the other stuff that happened, like Cody hitting Cena twice with the turnbuckle, like the metal, and that wasn't enough to put him away.
Right.
No juice too. When you get hit in the head with steel and you take, the AA or the Cody cutter, whatever, face first through a table, you got to have blood. Yep. Especially after what we saw last night. This match really needed blood. That it would have benefited from that, I think, too. There was a point too where John hit just a crazy leg drop off the top rope, finished it with right after that with an AA. Also not enough to beat Cody. It's just like the amount of stuff they were laying in. I think it was overdone. Go ahead, Justin.
There was two, because I based it off of last night and the show ending around this same time. I let my kids stay up and watch the show, the entire thing, and the two things he was so confused by that it's like why aren't they bleeding after towards the very end? It's like he just watched the Texas Death Match, and don't judge me, everybody out there, for being a bad parent. He can handle it.
The first 2 minutes of that match.
No, yeah. Jesse, shh. It's fine. He's not scarred at all. But he was just very confused about seeing all of this, and there was like no blood or anything. But the other thing he was super confused about was them talking about why the pile driver was banned when he sees it all the time in AEW. He's like, why is that? I was like, well, it got botched once a long time ago, so they just banned that one move, even though they do hundreds of other moves that are 1,000 times more dangerous. It's like, that's the best I could give them,
Yeah.
Ryan will get into this later, but they alluded to that match from SummerSlam 1997.
Yes, they did.
We also saw a destroyer on the floor from John Cena, which they've been busting out destroyers ever since Penta has come into this promotion. So 2025 has been the year of either the pile driver or the name your nationality destroyer.
Yeah. The the rope stuff I thought was creative. You mentioned it, Jesse, where they're choking each other out with the ring rope. The problem was they didn't lay that in enough. Like John Cena just cannot do an STF or the
that
STFU
was so bad with the rope.
Yeah, so at first he does the regular one, and you can see air between his forearms and Cody's head. And then he does it with the rope, and the rope is like not even touching his head. It looked terrible on that close-up. Don't shoot it that close. He doesn't have it on properly. And then Cody kind of used it, and he was like wrapping around his head in some weird way, but didn't really look like it was doing anything. Creative, but I'm not sure it was executed the best. But then, yeah, Cody wins, like I said, after the 6th Crossroads, celebrates, embraces John Cena. Cody is like holding back tears. Cody dips out. John is, like we said, he's in the ring doing his send-off. And then, as we talked about, out comes Brock Lesnar. And we get the F5. Brock just kind of walked around and People didn't know how to respond, and that's how they went off the air. The story was not Cody Rhodes becoming world champion again. It was Brock Lesnar's return and John Cena.
You know, the thing that really irritates me the most, or I don't know, irritates isn't the right word, but going back to your opening joke of the show, it's like, that's why Triple H isn't doing press conferences anymore. There might be one person who would be in that room that would actually even ask about that. And they probably just wouldn't let him in anyways. It'd still be like, how was it being in or if you go by WWE, how was it being in New York City, New Jersey tonight for the show? I mean,
Yeah.
they would still, the people that would be in that room would not hit them with it.
It's also super crappy to all the media members that traveled there on their own expense, expecting to get to do the media scrum and get some quotes, and then they just cancel it. Like they've been doing. You need to at least alert these people who give you free press all the time that you're not going to do that this time. It was kind of a last minute thing. I saw some people were pretty pissed about that had traveled out there. So I mean, what it comes down to is they want to always control the narrative. They have viewed those press scrums as part of the show. And when media members don't treat it as part of the show and they're not just happy to be there, they don't like it, so that, they ended it. But, the thing is, if you're a big corporation, you got to be able to answer questions. And if someone's in there asking you a tough question, you got to be able to answer those questions. Every professional sports team does this multiple times a week, and if you can't do it, get Paul Levesque some media training.
Well,
okay.
Unfortunately, as I'm stealing this from Trevor Dame, Paul Levesque is Charmin soft, and he's not going to do that.
Yeah. So that's how we went off the air, you guys. And we're going to talk about the rest of the show here in just a second. Before we do, I want to say thank you to everyone tuning in live. If you can please hit the like button, since there's probably hundreds of podcasts right now going on YouTube, we would really, really appreciate that because it'll help us rank higher in the algorithm for SummerSlam shows right now. And if you really want to support the show, you can become a patron. There's a link in the broadcast description. We got over 200 bonus shows, including lots of reviews of classic pro wrestling you can dive into the minute you sign up. It's just $5 a month. And it's really helps keep our show going. We've been on the air for 9 years. Yeah, another way to support the show is becoming a member of the YouTube channel, which costs just $2.99. And you can unlock a lot of those bonus shows, the video versions of them right here on YouTube the minute you sign up. You'll also get recognition on our channel homepage. If you sign up for that, like I said, $2.99 a month, you can just click join channel there somewhere on your YouTube page right now. Another way to support what we are doing and get some of that bonus content. We would really appreciate it. You see the names of all of our patrons going across the bottom of the screen right now. They are effectively the producers of Top Rope Nation and make this show possible. We thank each and every one of them. And as I said, Patreon is the only place to get the bonus shows in both podcast and video versions. If you want just the video versions, you can just become a channel subscriber here on YouTube for $2.99. Patreon, $5. Appreciate your support on all of that. We're available on all the podcast feeds as well. So if you want to listen to us on your convenience, you can just find us on Spotify, Apple, Podbean, wherever you get those podcasts. Subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. Would appreciate that.
We have a phenomenal group of people, and there's usually 2 hours of Patreon content a week, so it's definitely worth your while there. Facebook group also is phenomenal. They were tremendous once again tonight, so we could, hey, if you don't want to support us with, don't want to support us from a financial perspective, which is perfectly okay, join our wrestling discussion group. It's good stuff.
Top Rope Nation Pro Wrestling Discussion on Facebook. Great group of people there. A lot of the people in our chat are usually over there on the Facebook group as well. And then, just subscribing on YouTube helps us out a lot too. And it's free. Liking the video, that's free. All that stuff helps us out a ton. Appreciate all you guys tuning in right now. All right. Let's rewind. Let's go to the beginning of the show. We spent 30 minutes on Brock Lesnar in that main event. We got to get rolling here. So beginning of the show, you guessed it. Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque comes out. Very generous of him to only do this at the start of night 2 and not both nights. But he came out and my oldest kid said when Hunter was out there talking, quote, I wrote it in my notes, "This takes up a lot of time. Can we just get to the wrestling here?" This takes up a lot of time. Can we just get to the wrestling here? Like, yeah, you're right. Right on. But then we had a hell of a match open this show, you guys. It was the women's world title, triple threat, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and of course the champion, Naomi. Naomi got a special entrance tonight. Her dad played her to the ring out there on his guitar. That was really cool.
That was
so
awesome.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. To me, this is the match of the night. You guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think
easy by a long shot for me.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Yeah. So the match itself, you're going to note, I took a lot of notes early and then I'm just going to go off of vibe. So at the very beginning, so Io and Ripley, they're double teaming Naomi briefly. And then Rhea accidentally takes out Io with a kick. And then Naomi hits this crossbody off the top that takes out both of them. And they just like WWE triple threats. You kind of just take turns working the singles matches usually. Ripley, she goes to suplex Naomi to the outside, but it looked like Naomi kind of bit her or something. I'm not sure what happened there.
Yes.
Maybe bit her on the hand.
Yep.
Yeah. So then Naomi ends up giving Sky an X Factor right after that on the outside. You get Naomi kicking Ripley, who was holding Sky, which sent Rhea down, holding her into like a DDT. So she took out both of them at the same time. And then Naomi is just dominating most of the early portion of the match. She hit a blockbuster off the top to Ripley. Io Sky goes for a missile drop kick off the top, but Naomi just dodges it. And then finally get Ripley and Sky starting to come back after Naomi was dominant. Ripley slams Naomi. Sky hits this springboard drop kick on Naomi. They're now starting to double team the champ. You get a 619 by Sky into a release German by Ripley. And then it's Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley. And the crowd got really into this when it was just those two. Ripley goes for the Riptide, but it's countered by Io into a cradle. So then Sky locks in this crossface briefly, and Ripley lifts her up on her shoulders. But then Sky hits the Poison Rana to counter that, which was a cool sequence, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Ripley ends up giving Io a razor's edge, then a big power bomb. Naomi jumps in there to break up the pin. You get Ripley and Naomi fighting on the outside, and then Sky hits a springboard moonsault to the outside that takes out both of them. Io hits her bullet train double knees move to both women back and forth, and the turnbuckles back in the ring. Sky goes for her moonsault, but Ripley pushes her into the ring post up top. Then Naomi took out Rhea and did a split leg moonsault, went for the cover, and then Sky comes off the top ropes and hits Ripley with a moonsault as Naomi purposefully moves out of the way so that Sky takes out Ripley. Naomi then slams Sky down for a 2 count. You get Naomi taking out Sky with a knee to the face, and then Ripley hits Naomi with the Riptide, but Sky breaks it up. Sky and Ripley back and forth, slugging it out. You get Ripley taking out Naomi on the outside with a front senton off the apron. You get Sky hitting a sunset flip powerbomb through the ropes on Ripley to the outside, tossing Rhea on top of Naomi in the process. And then back in the ring, Ripley hits Sky with a Riptide off the turnbuckle. Naomi breaks up the pin, and she rolls up Ripley from behind for the pinfall, retaining the title. 16 minutes, 20 seconds. Really, really awesome match, I thought. Like right around 4 stars for me, probably. Good
Nice
stuff.
nice and tight. 16 minutes, no complaints. I was kind of scared that normally I'm scared for the baby faces that I like a lot. You know, that they're going to lose, Rhea in this instance. But I was kind of scared for the heel this time because I think Naomi has truly found herself as this heel character, and she's doing fantastic work. So I was really pleased that she won and how she won, most importantly, in a very heelish manner. It still kind of saves Rhea in that way. And, you know, for as much as I don't like this product, holy crap, are the ladies in WWE absolutely crushing these triple threat matches in 2025. They're doing incredible work, and this was no different. I absolutely loved it. This was the highlight of the night for me.
Yeah, Jesse.
The women have arguably been the best part of the product in 2025. I mean, we talked about Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair last night and how like that makeshift tag team has brought something to that division. Liv Morgan's improved quite a bit. The additions of Stephanie Vakir, Julia had a pretty solid match on SmackDown. She's the United States champion at this point. So yeah, tremendous opener. Naomi getting I'd say, what was it? So there was 16-minute long match. She had like 8 minutes where she dominated, and it was really, really cool to see. And I talked about Io and Rhea's chemistry, and I was like, hopefully Naomi comes up to their level tonight, and she did. So kudos. Good match.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome stuff. Yeah, so that was a great opener. You're thinking, we're on the up and up here tonight too, just like night one. It started out really good. They show Tyrese Halliburton ringside, got tons of boos, obviously, from the New York and New Jersey faithful. They show Nick Hogan. Less said the better. Michelle.
He's like the 7th most offensive person on this show right now that we've talked about.
True.
Touche.
True. Michelle McCool. And then they go to the cone zone, the drumstick mascot zone. I can see Justin squirming from here.
I missed this part somehow. Thank God.
Cones or Minute Maid?
Yeah. Ooh. I don't know, man. I'll go with the cones. They go 25th anniversary of TLC, and they show some of the teams from TLC's past. The Dudley Boys are out there in the crowd. The Hardys are in the crowd. Somebody missing. I wonder why. And then we get the TLC Tag Team 6-Pack Challenge. Motor City Machine Guns versus Fraxium versus the Street Profits versus Andrade and Rey Fenix versus the champions, the Wyatt Six, Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis versus DIY. And Jesse, how about that Andrade entrance?
Did you hear that, Pop?
It sounded about like my office right now.
Exactly. Took off his mask, and I think it even went more silent.
Ryan Huffman in the chat. He says, TLC, funnest match of the night. Didn't think they'd get enough time, but this match delivered. Liked referencing Dudley's and the Hardys, but was missing the best tag team from that match. Yep. Yes, they were. So, yeah, Justin, thoughts?
I thought this was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I am still experiencing, tag team ladder match fatigue. Like, some of the spots in this match were incredible. That Spanish fly through the table was badass.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know how much of this is going to, stay with any of us. Like, a year from now, it's just going to be like, there was a TLC, but that LARP team ended up winning, and who gives a shit about them, especially out in the middle of daylight where they look extra bad.
Yeah.
It was good. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. They lost me with some of the run-ins with the ladies. That didn't make sense. We're already dealing with 12 people in this ring. I don't know why we needed a bunch of run-ins. I understand that the point of it was that Wyatt Six have the numbers. They have the damn number game. So yeah, I'm just going to read one of my favorite follows, Tape Machines. The reason the Wyatt Six won that match was the big brain on Joe the Pig One Gacy, which is just fucking hilarious, who figured out that you can actually try to unhook the belts rather than just batting at it like a cat, as was the approach of all the other superstars.
Yeah, some of that was like, what are they doing here? Why why can't they not grab the belts? They're right there. What are we doing? My problem, it was a fun match.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem I had was just like so many of these teams, I was just like, I have zero investment at all in these teams. Like I could care less about most of them. Early in the match, it was just chaos. And I was like, I'm not even going to try to write down any notes on this. There's just too much happening. But towards the end, I started to write down some of the bigger spots that happened. I think I started when they did like the 3 table spots in a row, because you had Gargano give like a springboard DDT. I think it was to Gacy through the table. And then Phoenix hit his frog splash on Frazier through a table. And then you got Axiom giving that Spanish fly to Dawkins off the top through the table on the outside. It was insane. And then you get Candice LeRae out there checking on Gargano. And then she starts climbing the table, and they're selling. She's going to get the belts and hand them to DIY. But then B-Fab stops her. And then Nikki Cross comes out to stop B-Fab. And Candice is trying to get the tag belts as DIY is fighting off people later. Like they're the only ones in the ring then. Candice is again climbing up the ladder. and Gargano gets pushed and inadvertently runs into the ladder. I mean, it was planned, but that's how they sold it. And he shoves the ladder over, and Candice LeRae like comes down over the top rope through a ladder in the outside. Looked like she took most of the landing on the side of her knee.
Mhm.
Insane looking spot. Her left knee took most of that impact. Crazy. Like easily that or that Spanish fly was the spot of the match. And she wasn't even in the match, crazy stuff. Rowan then starts interfering for the Wyatts, and he takes out the Street Profits briefly until they're attacking him with chairs, and they shoved him through a table in the corner. And then Ciampa is hanging with the belts. And that's because the Motor City Machine Guns had moved the ladder out of the way. So he's just hanging there. And Frazier comes off the ladder trying to spear Ciampa, but he lifts himself up like on the hanger upside down. That was pretty cool. I like that.
Agree.
And then Gargano places the ladder, and Ford ends up leaping to the ladder. And it's those two up on the ladder, and he's fighting off Ciampa. And then Axiom and Ford fight on the ladder. And then you get the Motor City Machine Guns on a ladder next to them. And then DIY climb up too. And they're all on these ladders. And then everyone's reaching for the belts. And then Michael Cole calls him Bo Dallas. It's Uncle Howdy. I noticed he didn't say that again, but he's like, Bo Dallas it's Bo Dallas. And then he was quick to say Uncle Howdy after that. But Bo Dallas shoves the ladders over, taking out everybody. And then DIY went through these stacked tables on the outside. Howdy, Dallas, climbs the ladder. He ends up taking a sunset from Andrade off the ladder onto another ladder. And Gacy grabs the titles, and the Wyatt Six retain right about 16 minutes. So, I mean, there was a lot of crazy spots happening. Not a lot of an emotional investment for me, at least in this tag division, but eye-popping match, Justin.
Do you remember the discourse a while ago? There was a ladder match in AEW where everybody freaked out because there was a ref at the bottom stabilizing the ladder for the safety of the guys, even though that is something that happens in WWE all the freaking time.
Did it for Chad Gable and Money in the Bank.
Yeah. And now WWE is making special tables where, do you see the little holes?
The notches.
They're making super safe tables for the guys, which I'm fine with. I just, it's the whole discourse thing. Not to get ahead of ourselves, but not my biggest issue. We know what my biggest issue is about the night. Was the end of the night. One of my biggest issues was the layout of this card was absolutely, honestly, for the entire weekend was horrendous. The next match we're going to talk about, it had some major flaws, but it was really good. And if they had just moved these matches around a little bit, because we're looking at this TLC with all these smashed tables and big spots. Well, we're seeing more tables the rest of the night, and it's all just diminishing returns where it just doesn't mean anything by the end of the night. We had 2 straight matches where somebody's getting their hands tied, the zip tie and the handcuff. I mean, why they saved WCW Uncensored for night 2 of SummerSlam, I do not and will not ever understand. Mix them up. You did your talent no favor. The crowd was fucking dead for the beginning of the next match, and that's because of the match they put in front of it. They did the ladies no favors with the way they laid this card out.
In my notes, I wrote that not only did they use Dusty Rhodes' promo for Cody Rhodes' entrance, they also used his booking style from 1986 with those gimmick matches back to back to back to back. Classics. You learn your history right there.
We just talked about that last week. Great American Bash 86 in the archives for YouTube members and patrons. Go on.
It was just blood, which Justin's perfectly okay with. But no, there were, cage matches. And it was just the whole 9 yards. Go listen to it. So I think before all those crazy spots, one spot that I did enjoy before all those tables that you mentioned, Ryan, was I want to say it was Gargano or Ciampa like whipped Montez Ford into the corner, and he just leapt over the ropes and did a senton flying into the corner onto 4 guys.
Yeah.
Which I thought was super cool. Yeah, it was just a real fun car crash, like I knew it was going to be. High quality entertainment. But yes, you're right. No emotional investment in any of the teams, especially Andrade.
And what a waste of a talent. This could be an entire episode, but like I have a hard time even getting into the Street Profits anymore. Like, what are we doing here? This
that's
dude,
a shame.
what are we doing with Montez Ford? One of the most gifted athletes in this entire company, and he's in a 6-pack challenge tag team match and still doing the Street Profits thing. I don't know what we're doing here. You know, the guy seems to have star written all over him. Let's see if he can sink or swim. You know, I don't know what we're waiting for there.
And Angelo Dawkins pulling off probably the most athletic move of his entire WWE career, being the recipient of that Spanish fly.
Yeah.
That was quite impressive.
Yeah. All right. So, Justin, you mentioned the next match was the IC title match. Becky Lynch defending the women's IC title against Lyra Valkyria. Becky comes out to a brand new theme song that apparently has been in the works for a long time. Yeah, she'd been using the same theme for like a decade or more. And, you know, I like her theme, but it's cool to get a new theme out there. Apparently, they've been working on it for months. It is with the band The Wonder Years, which I guess is one of Seth's favorite bands. So they've been working on it and debuted it tonight. I thought it was good. I think it works. In the lyrics, you know, it talks about the man and all of that. Now, the stipulation in the match was if Lyra lost, she could not challenge for the IC title, the women's IC title again. And, you know, I thought going in, Lyra would probably win. We'll get to the finish. But Lyra, you know, she's controlling the match early. She misses this drop kick to the outside, and Becky ends up tossing her into a table. And so then Becky gets a kendo stick, and then Lyra gets this crowbar. And, you know, they kind of stare down each other, which, by the way, this was a no DQ, no count out was a stipulation for the match. That's why they can use the weapons. But, you know, they swing their weapons, and then obviously the crowbar absolutely destroys this kendo stick. And then Lyra takes control on the outside. She hit Becky with a crossbody. They're fighting around ringside. Lyra's laying in these chops, sends Becky into the ring post. She tosses Becky over the announce table. She gives a drop kick to Becky while she's sitting in the announce chair. And then Lyra sets up a table, but Becky ends up attacking her with a chain and then a kendo stick. Or was it a chair? I can't remember. I got a typo here. She attacked her with something. It says chain R here in my notes. It was either a chain or a chair. I can't remember.
It was a chain.
Yeah, they used both in the match. Then a kendo stick. They get back in the ring, and then Becky uses the kendo stick to do a Russian leg sweep in the ring. She's laying in the kendo stick shots here on Lyra. She gets out a toolbox and some more chairs. She's laying in some chair shots. She gives Lyra a drop toe hold into the like the seated part of a chair, which did not come close to connecting. They need to get better. They need to get better at these camera angles, because I thought there was a bunch of times tonight where they had like the absolute worst camera angle on the move, where you could really tell it wasn't hitting a lot in the main event, as we talked about.
And they're usually better about that.
Yeah, the directing was kind of off tonight. Becky slams the toolbox into Lyra, but Lyra kicks out. So then the heart of the match is built around the fact that Becky takes out this big zip tie out of the toolbox, and she ties Lyra's hands up in this zip tie, and she takes out a wrench and she's laying it in with shots to the stomach. She hits the Bexploder suplex. You know, Lyra's all cuffed with this zip tie. Second Bexploder. And then what I thought was a pretty cool spot, she hangs Becky up on the ring post using her hands like over the top of the ring post with the zip tie. So she's hanging there, and she's laying in these kendo stick shots to Lyra's stomach.
Best part of the match.
That was awesome. And that was before the big snafu. Becky is, you know, she gives him a leg drop off the ropes for a 2 count. Lyra counters this belly to belly suplex, and she's kind of hitting some headbutts, you know, because she can't use her hands. And right after this, they're rolling around on the ring. And speaking of the directing, Lyra's hands came out of the zip tie, and you could see it clear as day. And she puts them back in the zip tie. That just crap. That was, you know, bad usually these broadcasts are on like a 7-second delay. And so like normally that's something you can fix in the director's chair to make sure that that cut does not show on the live feed, but it showed. So it's on them partially, but it's also on Lyra to like, because Lyra doesn't know what camera's on her. If they were on the hard cam, you wouldn't have been able to tell. Probably on Lyra's behalf, like you got to abandon it at that point just in case.
It was obviously such a huge part of the remaining part of the match that she figured she had to get back in. I think a more savvy veteran says, fuck it, we just got to go with this, because it's going to take anybody who sees that out of the match completely.
Exactly. She had done a good 12-second Orange Cassidy impersonation before that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't really know who I would blame more in that situation, because she doesn't know where the camera is at. You probably got to ditch it, but at the same time, man, the director should have been able to handle that. You got to think quickly, but this is a big time promotion, and they had the absolute worst camera angle on her. So she puts him back in, and to me, this takes takes the grade for the match down a lot, because the whole heart of the match was then built around this zip tie thing, and we just saw her put her hands back in it. And then, other than that, they had a really good match. We talked about a lot of the spots were really cool. The back half of the match was really cool, but the zip tie thing here in the middle just kind of ruined it.
Look, maybe I'm a weirdo here, but if I was trying to win a match, I wouldn't have tried putting my hand back in the zip tie. I mean, I might be on an island on that wrestling strategy, but I just wouldn't have done that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they should have controlled it in the director's chair, but she had to think quickly on her feet too, and probably figured all the spots they got coming up. But unfortunate, because they were having a pretty good match. As you said, it was kind of hard for the fans to get into it after the car crash they just saw, but they were really getting into it. I don't know how much of the live crowd even noticed the zip tie thing, honestly.
Again, a savvy veteran probably informs Becky, hey, my hand slipped out. You need to take over for a second, get my hand back in there, tighten it up, and then we can proceed with all of our plans.
Yeah. So after she put her hands back in the zip tie, she hits a drop kick, and then she does a moonsault off the second rope, and Lyra slams Becky's head into the chair over and over. Lyra unties the turnbuckle pad on the top rope. Lyra is sent to the outside, but then she crawls under the ring. She gets this fire extinguisher, and as Becky comes out, she sprays Becky with it, and then she crawls back under the ring and somehow then gets her hands untied. And she comes out, and the zip tie is gone. And then Becky comes up with a kendo stick, and Lyra steals it. She nails Becky with it a bunch of times. She hits a drop kick through the ropes to the outside, which hits this chair that Becky was holding right into Becky's face. Lyra ends up countering a manhandle slam off the steel steps, and she hits a slam of her own. They go back in the ring. Lyra's charging into the corner, but she goes into that exposed turnbuckle that she undid earlier, and then she gets a manhandle slam through the chairs that are set up in the ring, but kicks out. So then Lyra rolls outside, and Becky hits her with the chair, and then slams Lyra's head in the chair multiple times. Excuse me. And then Becky wraps Lyra up in this chair, like through the opening in the chair, and she's like constrained in this chair. And then Becky rams it into the announce table, and then Lyra backs up Becky into the ring pose using the chair. But then Becky comes back, and she's swinging Lyra around in the chair into the post. And then Becky comes off the announce table, and she stomps the chair as it's around Lyra. And I'm telling you, Lyra sold this awesome. She looked like she was dead laying there. And Becky then gets out the crowbar, and she goes to swing it, but Bayley, out of nowhere, comes through the crowd from behind and takes the crowbar away. And then Becky tries to get Bayley to hit Lyra with it, and she doesn't. And she's kind of struggling with it, but she doesn't. And then Becky and Bayley get into this brawl, and Bayley's screaming, "You took everything from me," at Becky as she's pounding on her, going back to the injury angle from Mania. Mm-hmm. And then Bayley misses a knee, and Becky goes to set up a table, and Lyra comes out of nowhere with this leg drop that sends Becky through the table on the outside. And they get back in the ring, and then Bayley accidentally hits Lyra, and then Becky hits the manhandle slam and pins Lyra at 25 minutes. Yeah, so there was a lot happening in this match. Unfortunate in the middle there. Outside of that, it was a really good match. I'm not sure about this finish though, because I guess the story now is going to be, Bailey and Becky feuding over a mid-card title in the women's division when you could have had Becky drop the title to Lyra and still have done the same feud. I don't really know what this does for Lyra Valkyria. This was pretty questionable to me. Jesse, you can jump in here. What were your thoughts on the finish?
I think that's fair. It's funny enough. I actually went with Becky Lynch in my predictions, but I didn't know there was a stipulation that Lyra was unable to challenge for the IC title after this.
Yeah.
So, because I was like, well, this is a good way to kind of get her elevated to the world title picture, maybe by the end of the year or early next year, maybe as a Royal Rumble contender. Because there's a definite future with her. I think she's done a really good job. These two have great chemistry, so I felt they could have kept this going. But yeah, you're right. I think it would have been better off for Lyra to win just with that stipulation. And yeah, it doesn't make any sense for the Becky Bailey feud to be over a title unless it's the world title. And it's obvious that they don't need the world title because there's a lot going on. There are a lot of women that are a little more interesting right now than Becky Lynch and Bailey.
Yeah, agree. Justin, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there was a 4 to 4.5 star match in there, but there was just too many of the oopsies. It went way too long. The stuff with Bailey seemed unnecessary. I know she's got the stuff with Becky, but there was another way to do that. The outcome, like you just said, is questionable. Not even just like with the zip tie. There was the moment where Lyra sent Becky into the barricade and sent her into a cameraman, whereas Becky's selling this collision and the cameraman just casually walks off. And it's like there was just so much stuff in this match that kind of broke the illusion of professional wrestling to make it live longer than just this moment, which is unfortunate because there was a lot of good stuff in here and it just got ruined.
Yeah. Speaking of ruined,
how about it all?
Well, before that, the crowd absolutely ruined Russell Wilson. They showed Russell Wilson in the crowd. The crowd booed the shit out of this guy, which I found pretty funny.
Was Frank in attendance? No, he wasn't.
But then we get to the U.S. title cage match, which went about 13 minutes. Solo Sikoa defending against Jacob Fatu. I said when Jacob dropped the title to Solo, I didn't like it. Despite the shenanigans, I felt Fatu should never be losing to Solo Sikoa. I mean, Solo is really typecast. It's this guy that just can't get it done now. I don't buy him as the leader of the new bloodline. He just solidly a mid-carder. Yep. Jacob Fatu should be a guy in the main event like in a year or two, if not sooner. He is star material all over him. And to beat him a second time, spoiler, he lost here. I don't get it. This is not doing anything for him. He needs to move out of this feud. I said it when he won the U.S. title. He should be a dominant champion until he gets a world title shot. He should be destroying everybody. I don't like the guy. You guys know it, but Goldberg is basically the plan that they should be going with Fatu. He should not lose, and he certainly shouldn't lose twice to Solo Sikoa. I don't even have any notes on this match. That's where I stopped taking notes. There was a couple of cool spots, but overall, a bunch of interference from the bloodline on the outside. They did this finish where they used the cage door, and it was supposed to be that like the cage door took out Jacob, but like Fatu, but it hit Solo too. And then Solo just like falls out the door to win the match. It was a weak finish. Did not like the match really hardly at all. Go ahead, Justin.
This was a piece of shit. I hated it. This is truly where the night just took a severe downward turn. I said it in 2015 that Roman Reigns should be treated like 1988 Ultimate Warrior with the big Intercontinental title win over Honky Tonk. You
Fatu, you mean, right?
Yeah. What did I?
You said 2015.
Oh, no, I'm getting there. Okay. I said in 2015, they should have treated Roman Reigns.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah. Like they did Warrior in 1988. And that's how they should be treating Jacob Fatu this year as this monster who just comes out, wrecks people, And that's what gets him over with the fans, because that is what got the fans into Jacob Fatu. That's how they could have made Roman Reigns a babyface in 2015, but they completely fucked that up. And they're completely fucking this up now. Although I think Jacob Fatu is far too talented to be hurt by this one shitty match.
I just don't like he's lost multiple times now to Solo.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all. You know, like Fatu, he had a moonsault, which was crazy. That looked really good. Obviously, like that's his finish. But yeah, you know, you get all this interference from the faction, and then like out comes Jimmy Uso. Like, oh, this is gonna make a difference. Jimmy Uso, here we go. You know, like if it was Roman or something, that would have been cool. But yeah, Jimmy Uso comes out to try to even the odds, and he ends up getting taken out by Tala Tonga. You know, they got the stipulation where you can win by pinfall or you can escape the cage, and Fatu is like trying to get the cage door locked so Solo can't try to get out of the cage anymore. But he turns around and he gets the Samoan spike from Solo. It's a 2 count. And then Jacob's going up the turnbuckles, and, you know, the new bloodline out there, they're climbing the ring, climbing up the cage. And you get Tonga handcuffing Jacob to the top of the cage. And then Jacob ends up breaking the handcuffs as Solo's trying to escape the cage. And he runs over there and he jumps at him, and they're kind of like tussling as Solo is trying to get out of the cage. And then you end up getting Tonga, like I said, kicking the door into Jacob's face, which drives him back. And then Sikoa, who also seemingly got hit by the cage door, falls to the floor, and he retains. And then, yeah, I don't know. Afterwards, Solo tells the JC Mateo, Jeff Cobb, to go get Fatu. But Uso comes in and he super kicks JC Mateo. Boy, Jeff Cobb's stock has really gone up since he joined this company. He's just a total freaking nerd. He gets super kicked. He's thrown into the cage, and then Fatu, like I mentioned, he hits the moonsault from the top of the cage onto Tonga and Mateo, and yeah, that's how it goes off. I mean, you know, bad booking. Didn't care for this at all. You know, it's whatever. But Solo Sikoa still the U.S. champion.
Yeah, and they didn't really show how Jacob Fatu broke the handcuffs.
Yeah, he just like kind of
either.
snapped his hands. He just like pulled it apart. Which was, I saw Ryan Huffman make this point in the Facebook group. Why are you doing that after zip ties were such a big point in the women's match? It's like the same concept. I agree with him on that. That was questionable too.
I know, he's like the Incredible Hulk or something like that. Michael Cole making a point. I was just trying to save face with Solo Sikoa. He has not been pinned since the first Netflix Raw against Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, because he's had 3 singles matches and 2 no contests, you fucktard. Good grief. In those matches, Jimmy Uso, okay. Jacob Fatu, he cheated, and then he pinned Rey Fenix in a triple threat to get to the Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then a couple of no contests. Yeah. Solo cannot be rescued no matter how hard they try.
Yeah. No, he doesn't have it. I'm sorry. Like he can be a fine mid-card guy, but like to have him going over on a guy who clearly could be a main event talent, I don't care for. One time is one thing. A second time, it's shenanigans, but I mean, still the optics of him losing again. In their minds, it's, he's going to overcome the numbers eventually and he'll get the title. I just don't like that. That's not how I would be doing this.
I did enjoy Jacob Fatu when he did lock the cage back. He looked at the ref and he goes, "All gas, no goddamn brakes."
Yeah. All right, we got one more match to talk about, and I'm going to be done, you guys, because I think I've podcasted somewhere between 3 and 4 hours today. I'm running on fumes at this point. So
we got like the Kyle Ross when he's doing the Squared Circle Gazette episodes.
Yeah. Yes. All right. IC title match. Here we are. Dominic Mysterio, the men's IC title, defending against AJ Styles. AJ comes out basically doing an Eddie Guerrero tribute. He comes out in a lowrider. He comes to the ring and he's wearing like basically a replica of the tights that Eddie wore in his match with Ray at SummerSlam 05 when Dominic and his custody were up for grabs in that ladder match. Try to get in the head of Dominic. As the match is getting underway, Jesse, you alluded to this earlier. Michael Cole is talking about the history of the IC title at SummerSlam. And he says, there's been some great battles with the IC title over the years at SummerSlam. Go back to the Ultimate Warrior at the first SummerSlam. Great battles? It's a 30-second match. He destroyed the Ultimate. He destroyed Honky Tonk Man. A great battle. What are you talking about? And then he says, Steve Austin winning the IC title in 1997. Your great battle where he broke his neck and they had a horrible finish. You worked for the company at the time, Michael. I mean, come on, that was terrible. I wonder what Michael Cole is thinking at this point. I did like the throwbacks to the Eddie stuff. I thought that was creative. You know, the match was a lot of throwbacks to like Eddie spots overall.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a great match, but this was fairly entertaining. I liked it more than the US title match. That's for sure. You, Justin?
Yeah, it felt like a breath of fresh air after all the stipulations of the previous matches. And then just like almost every match on this card, it was snake bit by the finish where like it was so obvious that AJ was intentionally trying to pry this boot off of his foot. You know, they showed it in the replay where Dom unzipped it earlier. I wish we had seen that, you know, before it actually happened, but it was just, yeah. I mean, I'm curious. I need to go back to WrestleMania 20 because in my memory, the way Angle pulls the boot off is so flawless and truly looks like Eddie got one on him. Whereas this was like, this is just AJ desperately trying to get that boot off of Dom.
Yeah.
You nailed that part exactly. Yeah, the chair homage was great with the smashing with AJ and then throws it to Dom and then Dom puts it around his neck. They both lay down. That was good comedic gold. Love me some Eddie Guerrero tributes, and the match as a whole, like you said, was a breath of fresh air. It was fine. It was like in the middle, I would say. Like the right person went over, and Dom now gets to try to get some triple A mega gold in a couple of weeks. Be an interesting bout there.
Yeah, they showed some highlights of him appearing for AAA, which was, he got a great response from the crowd. But yeah, that spot you're talking about. So Dom had removed a turnbuckle pad, and then the referee goes over there, and he's like taking forever to try to put this turnbuckle pad back on and tie it. And behind his back, Dom throws Styles a chair and, you know, hits the ground like Eddie used to do. So it's in Styles' hands, and the Styles is like, oh, what am I going to do with it? And he ends up like putting the chair around his own neck, and then he falls to the ground, and both guys are out, and the ref comes over, and they're like, no, he did it. No, he did it. That was funny. And then, yeah, Styles is working the leg. He's obviously setting up the calf crusher. And then, you know, he pulls off that boot in the submission, which causes a collision with the referee. And that has Mysterio then hitting Styles with the boot that came off. And then he goes up top with one boot on and one sock, and he hits the frog splash off the top to get the win. And they showed the replay after the match, a close up where Dom is unzipping the boot before all of this. And they're all on commentary like, oh, he set that up just like Eddie would have done. Look how much, you know, he thought this out or whatever, and strategy and whatever. It was clever, but yeah, the execution wasn't great. But you know, it was a buffer match before the main event, so for that, it pretty much did its job. The fans were entertained. It was a decent match.
And he's getting positive crowd responses now too. I'm still wondering when they're going to pull the trigger on him turning face, because this whole Judgment Day thing is just getting overdrawn.
Yeah. So that's the whole show. I don't think I ever asked you guys what your grade for the night was. A through F. Give me your A through F grade for night 2 of SummerSlam, Justin.
I mean, I probably would have maybe said a C+, but with the alleged sex trafficker coming out at the end, I drop it an entire letter grade. So I don't know, D+.
All right, Jesse.
Before Lesnar came out, I had this as a B- just on the strength of the first 2 matches and I'd say 3/4 of the main event. And then, yes, Lesnar came out, and I would go between a C+ and a C.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. I'll give it a C+, maybe C. Yeah, C is C+. You're right. Right in there, probably, because I like the early stuff was pretty good. That women's match was really good stuff. But yeah, I cannot go in the B level for this show.
The thing that really irks me is that you can see the outline of this being a great show. If they had just moved some shit around, if they had just tweaked the storytelling coming in just a little bit, if they had not had fucking Brock Lesnar show up in the end, there was a great show here, and Trips just fucked it up.
Yeah.
Kind of like
too cute.
Yeah, it's like what they did with WrestleMania. I felt if you had WrestleMania's second night undercard with WrestleMania or with night one's main event, you got an A show right there. It's the best show that they've done all year. Could have done the same thing here with like Gunther and Punk, and then thrown the women's match and the ladder match and thrown some stuff in there, and you could have had an easy either low end A or a high end B for SummerSlam.
Yeah. Yeah. You combine the best things from both shows and don't have Brock Lesnar, would have been a lot better. But yeah, I was at like a B+ for night one. This was definitely a level below that, I think. So guys, we've done a lot of content this weekend, 2 podcasts today. If you missed our night one review, which is a lot more positive, you can go listen to that on your podcast feeds or right here on YouTube after we get off the air. Jesse put out a TRN Unplugged yesterday morning for our Patreon supporters. I mentioned we just released a Top Rope Nation Classics. That was a 2-hour look back at the 1986 Great American Bash Show in Charlotte, which had Ricky Morton and Ric Flair in a cage match in the main event, which is an awesome, awesome match. Tully Blanchard in a tape fist match, which is star-making performance out of him and the way he sold during that match. Not that he wasn't already a star, but he really stood out in that match. We had a lot of fun with that. There's 68 classic shows in the Patreon archives right now. If you become a patron, video and podcast versions. If you join the channel membership for $2.99, you can get the last 3 years of classic shows video versions. So if you want to dip into any of that, we would love to have your support. I mean, half of our content, if not more, is going up in these bonus shows for Patreon and the YouTube channel membership. And all of our members seem to like them a lot. And I think you would too. So give it a try for a month. See what you think. I'm going to put our Patreon names here at the bottom one more time before we sign off. Appreciate each and every one of you a lot. I appreciate you guys for joining me tonight, staying up late. Justin, good to get you on the show.
Yeah, I'm buzzing right now. You guys want to talk some more? Let's go.
I need to give my vocal cords a rest.
You brought a giant element to this night, Justin. It was much needed. We were like, what's going to happen if there's actually a positive WWE show?
Oh.
And Brock Lesnar screwed everything up.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's what I told Ryan before we got on the show. I think before you hopped on, I was like, I was just like, God damn, am I going to be happy about this? And then they proved me wrong.
Justin, did you watch Punk Gunther yet?
I did.
What'd you think?
It was good.
Not super high on it?
It was good.
Okay.
I'm going to watch it again. I spent last night, my brother-in-law was in town. I had my neighbors come over. We sat around a fire drinking beers. And once everybody went to bed, I fired it up. So I need to rewatch it.
Yeah.
I had some dear friends / brothers tell me there was some good sweating and blood in it.
Oh, God.
And if somebody comes out with their hair already slicked back, hair wet and stuff, that doesn't count for sweating for me. So Punk was disqualified on the sweating scale. I had some concerns that the blood was fake, but once we're done with this, I'm going to rewatch it.
I mean, those chops though, the way the sweat.
Yes.
I knew you would love that.
I still, yes. Like it is easily a 4-star match, if not better.
Yeah.
I think it's easily. Is it Punk's best match since he came into?
So we talked about that on the show this morning, and I think it's probably his second or third best match since coming back to wrestling. I said the only match he's had since he came back in 21, WWE and AEW, is the dog collar match with MJF. I think that's his best match he's had since he's come back to wrestling. And then, some people would probably put Hell in a Cell with Drew right there with this one.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned the Eddie Kingston match at Full Gear that we all went to in Minneapolis. That's probably in my top 4. I mean, the triple threat at Mania this year, I didn't call that out earlier. That was a really good one too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's probably his second or third best match since he's been back wrestling in the last 4 years.
Okay. Yeah, I need to rewatch it. I enjoyed it. My expectations were a little too high, I think,
Okay.
going into it.
Jesse and I said on the show this morning that we liked it better the second watch. When I watched it the second time this morning, I liked it even more. I thought it was just a phenomenal old school feeling match. Gunther was great in his selling too at the finish.
I mean, Gunther's the fucking best thing in WWE.
Yeah,
By
he's
a country mile.
terrific. He's
I had a
awesome.
buzz on coffee this morning and not alcohol last night when I was watching it, so I was a little more clear-headed. Yeah, I thought the match was better second viewing.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap. Appreciate your support as always. Jesse will have an Unplugged coming for Patreon this week, bonus show, and then we'll be back here on the main feed on YouTube, all the podcast feeds with another flagship next weekend. So you can check back with us there. Appreciate everyone who tuned in.
Thank you so much. That was incredible.
Awesome to see some new faces in the chat, and glad for some of you guys that were watching me on Bleacher Report who migrated over here. Really good to see you all checking in tonight. And we're seeing like Britt here, James who checked in as well. He was on the BR show earlier. Lots of you people. So you made this a lot of fun. It's a lot easier to do these shows when we got an active chat room. So
Huffman.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that's all I got. So this has been episode 392 of Top Rope Nation, and we will see everyone next weekend. Take care, everybody.
Peace.